Services restored after outage hits global sites. And also US and Australia sign critical minerals agreement. Good afternoon and salam Malaysia Madani, I'm Brenda Paul. A massive outage in Amazon Web Services or AWS knocked out major parts of the internet for hours, disrupting streaming, banking and messaging platforms across the globe. Services including Amazon Prime Video, Disney+, Airbnb, Fortnite, Snapchat and Duolingo were affected, along with banking apps like Lloyds and messaging platforms Signal and WhatsApp in Europe. Amazon said engineers have fixed the problem caused by a malfunction in its network load balancer system and restored services to pre-event levels, though backlogs persisted for hours. AWS, which powers nearly a third of the world's cloud infrastructure, said it was still working to stabilize the systems. Analysts say the outage highlights how dependent the global internet and economy has become on a handful of tech giants. US President Donald Trump has signed a deal on rare earth minerals with Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese. Albanese said the deal would lead to $8.5 billion in critical minerals projects in Australia and take relations to the next level.
We are discussing critical minerals and rare earths, and we're going to be signing an agreement that's been negotiated over a period of 4 or 5 months. And it was sort of good timing that we got it done just in time for the visit. And we worked together very much on rare earths, critical minerals, and lots of other things. And we've had a very good relationship. We've been working on that for quite a while. In about a year from now, we'll have so much critical mineral and rare earths that you won't know what to do with them. They'll be
Australia and the US would each invest more than $1 billion over the next 6 months, while the White House put the figure at $3 billion between the two countries. The two leaders said part of the agreement had to do with processing of the minerals. The Australian Premier has touted his country's abundant critical minerals as a way to loosen China's grip over global supplies of rare earths, which are vital for tech products. US President Donald Trump says he will soon visit Malaysia, Japan and South Korea, marking his first trip to Asia since beginning his non-consecutive second term in January. Speaking at the White House alongside Albanese, Trump said he also hopes to maintain good ties with Beijing despite renewed trade tensions.
I want to be good to China. I love my relationship with President Xi. We have a great relationship. I believe after we leave South Korea, we'll be there together. We thought that would be a good place to meet. And we're going to be meeting. I'll be in Malaysia, I'll be in Japan, I'll be in a couple of others. We'll be sort of doing a little bit of a tour.
Trump is expected to meet Chinese President Xi Jinping in South Korea during an Asia-Pacific summit later this month. Japanese sources say Trump will travel to Malaysia for a regional conference, then make a 3-day visit to Japan starting 27 October before heading to South Korea. Argentina has secured a $20 billion rescue package from the US to help stabilize its economy and support President Javier Milei ahead of key elections on 26 October. US President Donald Trump, a close ally of Milei, also pledged an additional $20 billion in public and private funding, contingent on Milei's electoral performance. The bailout aims to shore up Argentina's struggling peso and prevent further economic turmoil as inflation surges and foreign reserves dwindle. Critics, including former President Cristina Kirchner, accused Trump of running Argentina by remote control, while US officials voiced concern over the political nature of the deal. Despite Washington's intervention, the peso continued to slide, hitting 1,495 per dollar on Monday, underscoring deep market skepticism ahead of the vote. Bolivia's President-elect Rodrigo Paz has pledged to restore diplomatic relations with the U.S., marking a major policy shift after nearly 20 years of socialist rule. The 58-year-old economist won Sunday's runoff election, defeating a right-wing rival after the Socialist MAS party, founded by ex-leader Evo Morales, was eliminated in the first round. Paz said talks with Washington are already underway, calling it an important step to bring Bolivia back to the international stage. He faces a tough road ahead, with the economy in recession, fuel shortages and inflation above 20%. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio welcomed Paz's victory, saying it offers a transformative opportunity for both nations. Paz also received congratulations from President Donald Trump, who has been a vocal critic of Latin America's leftist leaders. U.S. President Donald Trump has literally taken a wrecking ball to the White House, kicking off demolition work on part of the East Wing to make way for a new $250 million ballroom. Construction crews began tearing down the East Wing facade, with heavy machinery seen ripping through walls and steel beams. The 79-year-old confirmed on Truth Social that ground had officially been broken for what he called a new, big, beautiful White House ballroom. It is the largest addition to the presidential residence in over a century. Trump added that the East Wing, traditionally home to First Lady's offices, will be fully modernized and more beautiful than ever. The president said the project is funded by generous patriots, though details of the donors have not yet been disclosed. Petrobras said it had received a license to drill for oil near the mouth of the Amazon River. This is enraging environmentalists who said the move would undermine Brazil's hosting of UN climate talks next month. Plans to expand oil exploration in Brazil, already the world's 8th largest producer, are backed by President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva. He insists that oil revenues will help fund Brazil's climate transition. Petrobras said it would immediately start drilling an exploratory well at Block 59, an offshore site 500 kilometers from the mouth of the Amazon River. Petrobras was granted a license to drill in the Foz do Amazonas region after a 5-year battle for permission to explore the area. Brazil's environmental agency, IBAMA, said it had given the go-ahead after a rigorous environmental licensing process. However, Brazil's Climate Observatory NGO said civil society organizations would go to court to fight the decision. Cambodian Prime Minister Hun Manet has officially opened the country's new Techo International Airport, a $2 billion project built by a major Chinese state-owned firm and expected to revive the nation's tourism sector. Located 20 kilometers south of Phnom Penh, the 2,600-hectare airport can handle up to 13 million passengers annually, with plans to expand capacity to 50 million by 2050. The project was jointly funded by the Cambodian government and the Overseas Cambodian Investment Corporation. The new airport replaces the capital's old Phnom Penh International Airport, which closed last month after 65 years of operation. Techo is Cambodia's second major airport in 2 years, following the opening of a $1.1 billion Chinese-funded terminal near Angkor Wat in 2023. Elsewhere, the Louvre was closed for a second day on Monday as police hunted for thieves who broke in and stole priceless royal jewels in a daylight robbery. Officials said a team of 60 investigators is working on the theory that an organized crime group was behind the theft of 9 pieces of jewelry. As disappointed tourists rebooked tickets to the world's most visited museum, the heist also reignited a row over the lack of security in France's museums. Justice Minister Gerald Darmanin admitted to flaws in securing the loaf. Interior Minister Laurent Nunez has ordered better protection measures around cultural sites. The masked thieves dropped and damaged the crown of Empress Eugenie, the wife of Napoleon III, as they made their escape. But 8 priceless items of jewelry remained missing. Still ahead, Thailand-Cambodia hold special border talks to ease tensions. Stay with us.
Bersihkan penapis penghawa dingin dan tetapkan 24 darjah Celsius untuk lebih jimat.
And welcome back. Thailand and Cambodia are holding a 2-day special meeting of their Joint Boundary Commission, JBC, in eastern Thailand to ease border tensions and boost cooperation on demarcation and security. Government spokesperson Seripong Angkasa Kulkiat said the talks aim to resolve issues peacefully under existing mechanisms. This is in line with the General and Regional Border Committees frameworks. Key topics include security coordination, construction of border fences, updating the 2003 terms of reference, and using LiDAR mapping technology. The Joint Boundary Commission will also discuss land encroachments in Sakho province. Seripong assured Thailand's territorial rights will not be compromised, stressing that all border operations are coordinated across security and foreign affairs agencies. Meanwhile, the Defence Ministry confirmed the next General Border Committee meeting will take place in Kuala Lumpur on 23rd October, with Malaysia and the US attending as observers. Tensions along the 817-kilometre border flared in July but subsided after a Malaysia-brokered ceasefire on 28 July. Leaders from 9 EU countries around the Mediterranean Sea said they fully expect Israel to open border crossings into Gaza for the immediate release of humanitarian aid following a ceasefire. Countries of the so-called Madani group met in the Slovenian coastal town of Portorož to discuss issues affecting their region. After the meeting, Slovenian Prime Minister Robert Golob said the group called for the immediate release of all humanitarian aid to flow into Gaza.
There is absolutely no excuse for anyone to block such a humanitarian aid, and we fully expect the Israeli government to release the Rafah, but also other cross-border points in order for the humanitarian aid to flow to Gaza.
The reopening of the Rafah border crossing between the Gaza Strip and Egypt remains on hold despite calls from the United Nations and aid groups. Golob said the Madani group also wanted to make sure the ceasefire agreement is fully respected, including by finding a way to put reporters on the ground.
We believe that if we are able to put our people on the ground in Gaza, specifically reporters, that would be absolutely the best possible way to guarantee that the agreement is fully respected by all sides and not just by perhaps one or two.
In the meantime, the European Union is keeping the option of sanctions against Israel on the table to ensure the fragile Gaza ceasefire is fully implemented. EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas said the truce had changed the context, but warned that without real and sustained change on the ground, the threat of sanctions remains. Brussels had earlier proposed measures such as blacklisting Israeli ministers and curbing trade ties before a US brokered ceasefire took effect. Kala said the EU would not move forward with the measures for now, but would not rule them out, calling the situation fragile. The EU, the largest donor to the Palestinians, is exploring a greater post-war role in Gaza. Now, this includes reactivating a mission to monitor the Rafah crossing with Egypt once it reopens. Despite Israel's repeated delays in the reopening of the Rafah crossing, aid organizations are racing against time to prepare and deliver essential supplies to the war-torn Gaza Strip as winter approaches. According to the UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, 8 trucks from Egypt are now being rerouted through the Kerem Shalom crossing in southeastern Gaza for Israeli inspection before entering Gaza. In a warehouse in Giza, Egypt, critical supplies are being assembled for shipment, including essential items most urgently needed by Palestinians such as rice, flour and canned food. These basic food staples represent a crucial lifeline for civilians facing severe shortages in Gaza. Following the ceasefire agreement between Israel and Hamas, aid agencies are working around the clock to stave off a looming humanitarian crisis in the enclave. With winter approaching, bringing cooler temperatures and increased rainfall, the humanitarian crisis in Gaza is taking on new urgency. Beyond food shortages, warm shelter and cold weather supplies have become critical needs. To address this, essential items like thick cotton clothing and heavy quilts are now stocked in warehouses and ready for shipment to Gaza. EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas said there was broad support among member states for a new €140 billion loan for Ukraine, funded by frozen Russian central bank assets. The European Commission has put forward the plan for a reparation loan to keep financing Kyiv and is seeking to win over major doubter Belgium. EU leaders are set to discuss the loan at a summit in Brussels on Thursday, and officials are hoping they will give a green light for a more detailed legal proposal to be drawn up. One of the main obstacles to the loan remains Belgium, which is demanding guarantees from its EU counterparts that they will share any potential liabilities. The vast majority of the €200 billion of Russian central bank assets frozen in the EU are held by international deposit organization Euroclear in Belgium. French Foreign Minister Jean-Noël Barrot said the loan could keep Ukraine afloat and in the fight against Moscow for the coming 3 years. After lobbying from Paris, Brussels is proposing that the bulk of a potential loan be used to buy European weapons. On a related note, EU energy ministers have backed a proposal to phase out Russian oil and gas imports to the bloc by January 2028. The ministers approved the plans, which would phase out new gas import contracts from January 2026, existing short-term contracts from June 2026, and long-term contracts in January 2028. However, the law is not yet final. EU countries must negotiate the final rules with the European Parliament, which is still debating its position. The European Commission designed the proposal to be able to pass despite past oppositions from Hungary and Slovakia, the two countries that still import Russian oil. It needs backing from a qualified majority of EU member states, meaning at least 55%. So one or two nations alone could not block the proposal. Separately, the EU is also negotiating a new package of sanctions against Russia that would ban LNG imports from January 2027. Kallas said the new sanctions package would be approved as early as this week. Britain's armed forces will get new powers to shoot down unidentified drones over military bases after incidents across Europe have raised tensions with Russia. Defence Minister John Healey said the UK will also do what is needed to defend British people. He said the country is developing new legal powers to bring down unidentified drones over UK military bases.
Within weeks, we will now start to produce jointly with Ukraine in the UK Ukrainian Octopus interceptor drones. Within months, we will establish the new UK Drone Centre. And within this Parliament, we will double investment into drones and other autonomous systems to more than 4 billion.
While recent drone sightings over airports in Germany and Denmark have triggered transport chaos, Poland shot down some of the small aircraft last month. Some drones were also seen over UK air bases last year. Countries across Europe have blamed Russia for the drone flights and agreed to boost military spending. However, Russia, which launched its war on Ukraine in 2022, denies being behind the drone flights. And in sports, Cassier's double leads Al Ahly to victory. Stay tuned.
Guna mentol jimat tenaga untuk lebih jimat.
And in sports, defending champions Al Ahly cruised to a 4-0 win over Qatar's Al Gharafa in Jeddah to move to the top of the Asian Champions League elite standings. Former Barcelona midfielder Franck Cassier scored twice after Enzo Mio had given Al Ahly the lead at the King Abdullah Sports City Stadium in a devastating first-half performance by Matthias Jaisler's side. Mio put the hosts ahead in the 32nd minute when he hooked in a close-range volley via the underside of the crossbar. Cassier added the second goal 6 minutes later with a towering header. The Ivorian scored the third before half-time when he charged through the defence to pick up a return pass from Riyad Mahrez and slotted the ball in. Saleh Abu Al-Shamad rolled in the fourth goal 14 minutes from time. Al Ahly moved on to 7 points from 3 games in the Western League phase of the competition, with the top 8 finishers advancing to March's knockout rounds. Al Ahly are level on 7 points with Al Wahda from the UAE, who fought back from a goal down to Qatar's Al Duhail to pick up a 3-1 win in Abu Dhabi. Saudi Arabia's Al Hilal are third in the 12-team standings on 6 points from 2 games and will face Al Saad from Qatar tomorrow morning. In another match, 2 goals from Hussein Awa held Saudi Arabia's Al Ittihad beat Al Shorta 4-1 in their AFC Champions League elite meeting at the Al Madinah Stadium in Baghdad. Bassam Shaki had given the home team the lead in the 5th minute, but the Iraqi side could not hold on for long. Frenchman Moussa Diaby equalised in the 17th minute before former Liverpool midfielder Fabinho gave Al Ittihad a 2-1 lead in the 29th minute. Al Shorta were unlucky not to go into half-time on level terms when Dominique Mendy's shot bounced down after hitting the crossbar. A goal was not given, although replays seemed to suggest that the ball had crossed the goal line. Although the visitors had to play most of the second half with 10 men after Danilo Pereira was sent off in the 50th minute, after being given a second yellow card, they managed to add further goals. Awa found the back of the net on the hour mark, then scoring again in the 76th minute to make it 4-1. The result sees Al Ittihad move up to 7th place in the AFC Champions League West standings with 3 points from 3 games. Al Shorta meanwhile dropped to 11th place with just 1 point from their 3 matches. The Swedish Football Association said ex-Chelsea manager Graham Potter had been appointed national team coach. This is after Jon Dahl Tomasson was sacked last week following 3 straight losses in World Cup qualifying. Sweden terminated Tomasson's contract on 14 October after his team only managed to win a single point in the first 4 games of the qualifiers for the 2026 World Cup. The Swedish FA said Potter, who was sacked by Premier League club West Ham in September, would be tasked with turning around a team containing star strikers Alexander Isak and Victor Gyökeres, an attempt to qualify for the finals in the US, Canada and Mexico. He noted that the goal is to create the optimal conditions to reach the World Cup in the summer of next year. The association said the contract with Potter covered the ongoing qualifying period with games against Switzerland and Slovenia in November, as well as a potential playoff in March. The contract would automatically be extended to the World Cup finals themselves if Sweden qualify. Despite having Liverpool striker Isak and Arsenal's Gyökeres starting together up front, Sweden has failed to even score in their last 3 matches and sit bottom of Group B. Arsenal manager Mikel Arteta said he is pleased with his players' commitment, but warned that they cannot get ahead of themselves as they fight for silverware on multiple fronts. Arsenal, unbeaten since August, are 3 points clear at the top of the Premier League and have won both their Champions League matches so far. However, Arteta was not keen to accept the favourites' tag in the English top flight. A day before hosting Atletico Madrid in the Champions League, he said, when he sees the commitment and quality that the team can deliver, he is convinced that Arsenal can go all the way. He also said he looked up to Atletico manager Diego Simeone, who has led the Spanish club to 2 Europa League and 2 La Liga titles since taking charge in 2011.
Well, at the highest level, I think what he's done since he got to Atletico has been outstanding. Not only what he have achieved, but the way he's done it. I think the identity that he has created to the club, to the team, the spirit, I think they are very simple and clear to identify, and that's because the manager is very much them. And that's extremely difficult to achieve for a short period of time, and to do it for 14 years, I think he's been there now, it's something incredible. So, yeah, a pleasure to meet him.
Arteta also said defender Piero Hincapié will be available for tomorrow's clash after recovering from a groin injury. Meanwhile, Atletico Madrid coach Diego Simeone also heaped praise on Mikel Arteta's Arsenal. However, he said his side will go into the Champions League game with confidence as they look to snag 3 points in an away match. He added for the last 5 or 6 years since Arteta managed the team, Arsenal have had a perfectly clear identity. He said the club have not veered from it and they are strengthening themselves and bringing in better players. And that wraps up World Today. In our top story, Amazon Web Services restored after outage hits global sites. Tune in to Berita tonight, coming up at 8:30 p.m. on TV1 and Saluran Berita RTM. Till then, I'm Brenda Paul, Malaysia Madani, Rakyat, Disantuni. Thank you for watching and take care.